Welcome to another episode of Blacklight on Sports with Charles Hallman and me, Dr. Mitchell Palmer McDonald. And our guest today is a coach and community leader who has been in St. Paul for quite a while, um, Mr. Ronnie Smith. Ronnie, how you doing?
I'm doing good, Mitch. Thanks for having me.
Doing all right. Wanted to make sure I mentioned this that Charles Hallman is not with us this evening because he is currently coaching a basketball game for Minneapolis South High School. Ronnie, tell us a little bit about like your journey. I know you're coaching now, and talk about how you've gotten to where you've been to the point of where you are.
Yeah. Well, as a kid, I moved here from Springfield, Ohio, when I was in the 10th grade
Mm-hmm.
and started going to St. Paul Central. It was the latter part of the 10th grade, so I didn't get to play basketball that year because it was the end of the school year.
Mm-hmm.
My junior year at Central, I was on the varsity team, and my senior year, I was on the varsity team. But during my senior year, I didn't have people in my life like me to tell me to keep thriving and playing. And my
Mm-hmm.
senior year, I had appendicitis. And when I got back to play, when I recovered,
Mm-hmm.
I was not playing anymore. So I ended up quitting.
Okay, so you so you came back and you weren't getting the playing time that you wanted or thought that you should have, or
Right.
okay.
And I felt like it was a waste of time. My mom was doing everything herself
Mm-hmm.
with my siblings, and my mom's sister had died in a car accident. So my mom was raising her three boys too. So it was eight of us and my mom. So I thought I'm just going to quit basketball and do what I can to help my mom out.
Now, is that a decision that you regret today, or I mean, would you have done anything differently with what you know now?
Oh, I definitely regret making that decision. And I made the decision on my own, to do that. And I tell the kids today that I coach,
Mm-hmm.
you know, that's one of my biggest regrets was quitting high
Okay,
school basketball in my senior year.
okay. So,
Yeah.
so you're saying that you learned that maybe you should have stuck with it.
Yeah, I should have stuck with it. So it's one of the things that I teach or I've taught my son Cameron.
Mm-hmm.
If you start it, you finish it.
Mm-hmm.
So he knew. If you start track, you finish in track for the season. You don't got to sign back up the next year. But if you start it, you're going to finish it this year. So,
Okay.
so that's one of the things that I stick with when it comes to my kids playing sports, which they're all grown now. So
Mhm.
it's yeah, it's one of the biggest regrets I have as far as sports go.
Where did you go from there after graduating from Central?
After graduating from Central, I had different jobs at different places. I started doing machine work, making really good money,
Mm-hmm.
and I worked at the packing house. The last job I had, which was a good job, was working at the Minneapolis post office,
Okay.
and I was, in my 20s. I was not the greatest person to be around.
Mm.
My father was murdered when I was 19.
Okay.
So,
Was it in Springfield or?
no, it was here in
Oh, it was
Minnesota.
here. Okay.
Actually, it was in St. Paul.
Okay. Okay.
So, my father was murdered, and it was by a woman. So, I, you know, I just was young and didn't have any mentors or anybody to lead me in the right direction. So, I was learning on the fly with my friends.
Mm-hmm.
We all thought things were right,
Mm-hmm.
and the things we were doing. But I found out some years later that everything I did was just me being young and dumb.
Mm-hmm.
And but the things I did in my 20s was reckless, honestly reckless. A lot of people don't know this about me.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people know Coach Ronnie.
Right.
They know Ronnie in the community and all the things that I've
Right.
done, you know, to help people.
Mm-hmm.
They don't know that I was into drugs and got myself caught up into drugs to where I was using. And and I'm still in recovery. To this day, actually on the 9th of this month, I'll
Hmm.
be sober for 36 years.
Hey, that's pretty big.
In the 36 years of my sobriety is what changed everything about me as far as coaching, helping people in the
Hmm.
community, doing social work. Everything about my life changed when I stopped using and and I got to be the real Ronnie.
Wow. Was there a moment that you remember that kind of switched that light on and said, you know what, I really need to change? Was there was there any defining moment? There's something that happened, or
Yeah, I'm gonna get a little deep here, Mitch. So bear with me.
okay.
I and that light came on one morning after I had been out using all night.
Mm-hmm.
And I was young. To me, I was 29 years old, but I got married at 25 to my first wife,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm out using. I come home that night and, you know, pull in the garage. I think she had already gone to work, but and that was the day I was going to say I'm done with everything. And she came and caught me in the garage, and I said, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not trying to hurt myself,
Mm-hmm.
but I really was.
Mm.
And I went in the house, made phone calls that day,
Mm-hmm.
and people were saying, "No, we can get you in 2 weeks. We can get you in." And the last call I made was to Ramsey County, and they said, "Can you make it through the weekend? We can get you an assessment."
Mm-hmm.
I made it. I said I can make it through the weekend. I made it through the weekend, and that day, January 9th, 1989, I've been sober ever since. I made it. I went to outpatient treatment and tons of meetings and for years meetings and meeting new people
Mm-hmm.
and just changing my life. I quit my job at the post office. I just felt like that place was a trigger for me,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't want to do that. So I ended up getting a job at the rec center
Okay.
at Jimmy Lee.
Yes.
I
Yes.
I went from making decent money to like $5 an hour, but it was the best $5 an hour, man, because when I found my niche was working with kids.
Mm-hmm.
Once I got in that rec center and started working with kids, it just something went off in my head like this is it.
Wow.
Vesta Kelly Sr. said, "You can coach the little kids. You can coach the third and fourth grade."
Mm-hmm.
Now listen to this team, Mitch. My first team ever coaching:
Mm-hmm.
Mo Hargrove,
Mm-hmm.
Joe Mauer,
Mm-hmm.
Robin Jackson,
Mm-hmm.
Aaron Howard,
Yep.
Jose Phipps,
Yeah.
Michael Jordan.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, those were kids that people don't know their names, but those kids were. I had the best team out of all the rec
Oh
centers
yeah.
my first year coaching basketball, period, and it was a joy. My daughter Shea played for me. My
Mm-hmm.
nephew Anthony Long,
Mm-hmm.
he played for me, and it was a joy, man. It kept a smile on my face. That was my first time coaching, and I've been coaching ever since.
Now, did you think when you started, did you think that like I'm gonna keep doing this, or did it feel like just kind of a once in a lifetime thing, or after that first year, did you feel like, you know what, I might want to do this for a while?
Actually, the first time I did it, I was just doing it for that period. I
Mm-hmm.
thought, okay, I'm going to coach here and then I'm going to move on because I don't know how long I'm going to stay at the rec center.
Right.
But then I fell in love with it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there was two things I wanted to be as an adult, and one was I wanted to be a physical education teacher, and this is the funny one. People are gonna laugh, but I wanted to be a fashion designer. I did. Those are the two things. So I felt like I couldn't be a physical education teacher at the moment. So I'm in the gym now. So that was my part of being
Mm-hmm.
a physical education teacher.
Yeah.
I coached there for a couple of years and I didn't get to move up with the kids. So that kind of stopped me because that's when I fell in love with coaching.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to MLK and started coaching. Mary Ann Hagan, that was there, said, "Ron, you
Mm-hmm.
can move with the kids, do everything." and I started coaching kids. And uh, Isaac Roosevelt, who played D1 basketball,
Mm-hmm.
uh, he was on my team. I'm trying to think of a Noah Gagner was on our team. Uh, Vel Cobbins,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
a bunch of kids that played with me then. I kept them until I went till they went to high school, which
Mm.
was third and fourth grade, till they went to the ninth grade. I coached them, and then I really got to learn and experiment with traveling, coaching outside of the rec center, which was a whole new meaning to basketball for me
Mm-hmm.
by being able to coach traveling basketball,
Mm-hmm.
and it was another joy uh, coaching those kids. So coaching then was not even just a joy, it was a part of my life.
Wow. When you when did you get into coaching at the high school level?
The last game when I coached Isaac, Noah, and those guys and Dante, they all said, Coach Ronnie, you should follow us to high school.
Mm-hmm.
You should coach us in high school. I said, it don't work like that. I said, but I would love to. So what do? I applied for the ninth grade job at Como,
Mm-hmm.
boys ninth grade job at Como, and I got it. So they're playing ninth grade at Central. I'm coaching the ninth grade team at Como
Mm-hmm.
with Isaac Thomas,
Mm-hmm.
Gabe,
Yep.
Jamil Lott.
Yep.
Man, I had a team. I'm telling you, I beat everybody in the city that year. I needed one game to win the city conference for the ninth grade team. And Isaac did something, and I said, you can't play. He said, I quit.
Oh
And we were playing against Robert Smaller
man. Mm-hmm.
at not Washington. Back then it was
Expo.
no the high school.
Oh, the high school, Arlington.
Arlington.
It
Back
was at
then
Arlington.
and
Yes.
and Isaac, I wasn't gonna not let Isaac play. I was just he was gonna sit out the first half, but I didn't tell him that. We ended up losing the game, and that year Arlington won the city, and that's how we lost the city championship. But the best part about this story, Mitch, is umpteen years after that, Isaac is coaching his team, and we're at Bethel College. I'll never forget this. He got some teenage boys.
Mm-hmm.
He runs up to me and say, "Come here, coach. Will you tell this kid what I did?"
Oh man.
I said, "What?" He said, "Tell him what I did. Tell him the mistake I made." I said, "What?" I said, "You got it?" He said, "Yeah, I got it." You know, it was like, and that was a moment that was like crazy because
Mm-hmm.
he's a grown man now, and what I did to him as a ninth grade kid, it changed things, man. It changed it, and me and Isaac are close as heck to this day.
Well, the interesting part about that whole story is that you're coaching. You've been coaching for a long time, but in that moment, you're coaching, and I think you're able to draw back on your experience because you quit, so you know where that was. So you know where he was headed
Exactly.
when he quit. Now he like you didn't know where you were headed, and he didn't know
Right.
you were headed, but just like you, he found out and he recognized it.
And he
I
recognized it.
Yeah, I just thought that was pretty interesting. And when you're coaching and you're dealing with young people, you never know what they remember. You may forget,
Right.
but you don't know. They'll come back and say you said something that they remember, and that's kind of more just as satisfying as when you were coaching them.
Man, it was a feeling that I that day,
Mm-hmm.
I was like on cloud nine. I'm like, just look at this.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's a feeling from, as a coach
Yeah.
that you wouldn't expect. But then when it happens, I got to tell you another story about a kid that I coached named Julius Scarver. And Julius won't mind me saying his name because Julius on my bench one time, just being a hard head, had his headphones on, and this is during a game. Come on, he's got his headphones on, and I go, Julius, you can leave. You can just go. And he was just hard headed. to the end. As a grown man now,
Mm-hmm.
years later, Julius calls me every Father's Day.
Well, that's cool.
Every Father's Day, he calls me. And man, he says, I might not have got it then.
Mm-hmm.
He said, but as I got older, he said, man, everything you showed me, he said, I remember. He said, and that's why I call you on Father's Day, because you're like that father to me.
Now, did you ever think when you were coaching that, you would be that you would develop those type of relationships with your players, that were at the time where you were just coaching and you were just like, I'm coaching to help you guys be better ball players and win, without realizing in the process you're also kind of shaping them into young men and young women.
Yeah, I at first I didn't, but then I
Mm-hmm.
realized as coaches, you coached. We're more than just, X's and O's and get your
Mm-hmm.
uniform on, get in the game, call a play. We're more than that, man. We're mentors, and the pride I take in the young men that look like me,
Mm-hmm.
that still communicate with me, is the team that played with my son Cameron. Mostly every one of those dudes have a high school diploma, but they all went to college and have college degrees.
Mm-hmm.
Quite a few of them play college sports, and some at the D1 level,
Mm-hmm.
but the best part about it is that they got college degrees. And I used to preach that to them. And I never had a college degree. I'm preaching it. You guys need to go to college. You need to get a degree.
Mm-hmm.
You need to get a degree. And then one morning I woke up and said, "Man, Ronnie, you need to get a degree."
Mm-hmm.
And I'm moving on with you, Mitch, right now. I'm sorry,
Mm-hmm.
but
You go
I
ahead.
I went back to school.
Yeah.
I said, "Man, I was scared as heck, man. I'm here. I am.
Mm-hmm.
I'm 41 years old, and I'm like, I'm going back to school, and I said, I'm gonna go easy first and see what happens." And
Mm-hmm.
I went back to school, and I got my associate's degree in criminal justice. The best part about it was I graduated with a 4.0,
Mm-hmm.
and all the kids, because that's who I went to school with, they picked me to be the speaker of our graduation, the main speaker at our
Well, that's pretty.
graduation. So it was now when I was preaching to them about you need to get a college degree, I at least had one,
Mm-hmm.
and no, it wasn't uh, a 4-year degree yet. It wasn't a master's or whatever. But
Mm-hmm.
at my age, I wasn't supposed to get one at all from the way people said my life was going.
Mm-hmm.
And I ended up getting that degree.
Oh, you ended up getting a 4 year.
Yeah, I ended up getting
Okay.
a 4-year too. But it
Okay.
was it was after I got hired at Ramsey County.
Mm-hmm.
I've done so many different jobs there. I started there as working with children's mental health. Ended up in child protection,
Mm-hmm.
working there. I worked in adult services for a lot of years, and actually ended my career there in adult services. But I worked in adult protection. But when I got my 4-year degree,
Mm-hmm.
I was working in child protection as a case aide, and I called HR and said, "I'm doing social work here. What do I need to do to become a social worker since I'm already doing a lot of the work?" And they called me back and said, "Ronnie, you need a 4-year degree." As soon as I got off the phone, I
Mm-hmm.
called the school where I had got my 2-year degree and was able to get enrolled in the winter quarter, and I started school that year. Same thing. I graduated with a 4.0.
Mm-hmm.
And the only reason why I think I did so well is because my priorities were straight.
Mm-hmm.
Out of high school, I would have never made it. I tried, but I was all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
Mentally I was all over the place. I wasn't dumb or anything. I just was not prepared, and I wasn't as prepared as the adult I was at, 41, 42
Mm-hmm.
when I ended up getting my 4-year degree in criminal justice, which at the time I didn't quite understand a lot about the social sciences, and
Mm-hmm.
that my degree in criminal justice was one of the social sciences, so I could get a social worker job at Ramsey County.
Mm.
So that's what I did. I became a social worker at Ramsey County, which people couldn't believe. Hey, Ronnie Smith? Yeah, I had done it. I had gotten a 4-year degree, a 2-year degree, and I thought about more education, but then I thought about debt too. you know,
Yeah.
but
Oh yeah.
but we know we when I met you, I was riding with you to get your master's
Yeah.
when you
Yes,
were
I
going.
remember. Yes, I remember. You went to school. You did. You wanted me to get something from the professor. I remember
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Yes, we did. We took that ride to River Falls. Yep.
But I always told you, man. I didn't have it, but I was proud of you. What you
Mm-hmm.
were doing, and even before you got your doctorate, we talked about it.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yes, we did.
and it was it doesn't matter if you're younger than me, Mitch. It's the things you do and the things that you've done. Means a lot.
Mm.
And
I appreciate that.
yeah, so Ramsey County was the place for me.
Mm.
Uh, Before Ramsey County, though, I didn't have a degree. I worked at the Wilder Foundation, and working there, I worked with the roof project was a transitional housing program,
Mm-hmm.
and I worked with the homeless families, and we provided housing and services for the families,
Mm-hmm.
and I ended up being the housing coordinator of that program, being in charge of that program with just my high school diploma with this transition housing program, this $1 million transition housing program I was in charge of. And it was at that point is when I had left Wilder, and that's when I went back to school and got my first degree.
Now, how important was it for you to, with you coaching, um, to get your degree? And because like you said, you're a person that people look up to, and here you were, yeah, you need to go to college, you need to go to college, and you hadn't gone,
Right.
right? And how important do you think that was for your players and your family and everybody to see you do that?
Man, Mitch, it was so important because my mother was still alive
Okay.
when I got my first degree,
Mm-hmm.
and she was there. And man, it was great and then afterwards we had a little party and
Mm-hmm.
my players were there,
Mm-hmm.
and I know how they look up to me and thought of me. They never thought anything less of me because I didn't have a degree.
Right. Right.
But I'm telling my son, you need to go and get your degree. And just you wrote a story about us years ago in 2010,
Mm-hmm.
because that's when I got my 4-year degree,
Mm-hmm.
and Cameron was graduating from Central
Mm-hmm.
at the same time that I got my 4-year degree.
That's right. That's
And
right.
you wrote a story
You
about
gotta
that.
be kidding me, man. Boy.
Yeah, and
Wow.
and in his first year of college, when he was
Mm-hmm.
playing ball, you rolled down with me to watch him play.
Yes. Yes, I remember that.
So we've had some fun times together.
Mm.
Me not knowing a lot about the basketball scene because I had that cloud in front of me in so many years in my
Mm-hmm.
20s, and you're like, Ronnie, let's go over to the North game. I said, what? He said, come on, man, just ride with me to the North game. I said, North Minneapolis game? And he said, yeah, let's go. Here I am with you. We over there, and man, I had a ball. That was the first time I had gone to a high school game, and it meant something to me
Hmm.
because I had been coaching a little bit, and I started really getting back into basketball. So when we did those games, man, it meant a
Mm-hmm.
lot, for us to do that.
I
So
didn't realize that.
yeah, it was, it was some fun times, man, and the gym was packed.
Yeah.
We barely got a place to sit back then.
Yeah, yeah. I wanted to talk to you about that. What changes have you seen um, since you've been coaching from the time you started um, until today? Like I said, we were hit by COVID pretty bad, and that kind of I know that has changed the landscape, so to speak. But how has the game in your mind changed, or has it changed?
Oh, it's changed a lot. And for me,
Mm-hmm.
I believe it. And as a coach, even if you're an old man like me, you have to change with it.
Right.
It used to be where basketball was like slow the game down, call a play every time, get up and down the floor. Where these kids are a lot more athletic and they, for instance, my AAU was going down to Jimmy Lee and MLK when I was a kid,
Of course.
and we would go down there all day and run
Of
back and
course.
forth. That's all we would
Of
do
course.
that was our AAU.
Yes.
But now AAU is huge and trainer. What's a trainer? What was a trainer?
Oh my goodness.
Back then we didn't have no personal
Uh,
trainers.
we went home, or we waited for next
Or we
first
waited for
heel.
next. And if you was good enough,
Yeah.
you didn't have to wait for next.
Right.
But
Right.
but
Right.
the thing the kids, you know, everybody feels to me the kids they feel like they have to be the best in order to perform and and they don't have to be. They social media has wrecked things to me a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Our parents are so different. The parents are, you know how many times I've had refs come up and say, your parents are some, they're just, you know, they're not the greatest, but then you realize after their high school career is over, then the parents aren't bugging about anything.
Mm.
I mean, some do, but some parents they're done after their high school careers are over.
Mm-hmm.
Then the parents are done, and the thing about what I was trying to get at with some of the changes is 5 out, 1 in, 4 out is makes basketball a little bit faster too, to
Mm-hmm.
where and there's no post players. You know,
True.
you don't. No one's in the post. Everybody wants to be around the perimeter shooting, and in transition basketball, I love it because I never got to coach a lot of tall kids.
Mm-hmm.
So with transition basketball, and you got 10 athletic little guys that can run and can score. Keep up with us.
Oh.
Keep up and if they say, well, they're just running the floor, and then you can go, slow it down, guys, run this. We can run a play too, but why? If
Mm-hmm.
if if we stop and run a play, it's going to slow the game down to help you.
Yeah.
And as a coach, you have to recognize those things during the game when you're coaching. And I don't know, Mitch. It's getting to where I think more so that makes me want to retire is the gyms aren't as packed as they used to be.
True.
And the way they are about it, it's so nonchalant. It's like girls, boys, because I've been coaching girls the last 6 years
Mm-hmm.
at Como,
Mm-hmm.
but I have a boys team still too at MLK
Mm-hmm.
that I coach, and they miss practice for the littlest things. They miss games for some of the littlest things. And as a senior, you can't afford to miss games because you got how many left?
Mm-hmm.
And this is you can't get none back after high
No,
school.
you don't. You don't. And you don't realize that. Um. Well, I know I didn't realize it until March of my senior year, and then we're in the section tournament, and the I remember, here's what it is. I remember my junior year. We made it all the way to state. We lost the first game, and then when we lost a consolation game to North, the seniors were, obviously upset, and
Hmm.
I didn't, and I couldn't figure out why they were so upset, and then we weren't, but then my dad was like, "Well, you're coming back next year." Okay, he said, think about this feeling next year. He said, because it's gonna come one way or the other. It's gonna end.
Yeah.
Now how it ends, we don't know. Well, we lost to Cretan in the sections at Johnson High School where I work, which is interesting enough. And then it just kind of hit like, okay, we're not practicing no more. we're not doing this, doing that. At the same time, however, I knew I knew what I was about to do afterwards.
Yeah.
I knew where I was going, and I saw a couple of my teammates that didn't know what was next,
Right.
and that's where, and that's how I felt when I started coaching. Um, Now I'm getting rambling on about myself and I'm
No,
supposed to
that's
be
all right.
interviewing you, but I wanted you to talk about your work at Como and what that experience was like, and um, how much longer do you plan on doing it? Do you plan on, or if you
Yeah. Well, before I say that to you, I'm gonna my first high school job was at Como with the boys, ninth
do?
grade team. I only coached there for 1 year. The next high school job I had, and it was only 1 year too. I coached at St. Agnes with Kevin Carlisle, the boys.
Yes.
I did 1 year there with Kevin Carlisle, which was a pretty good year.
Mm-hmm.
But Kevin didn't want to go back, so I didn't go back.
Mm-hmm.
And then the year after that, I coached a few years at Highland with Coach Deb
Okay.
Williams. I had the girls there with her,
Yeah.
which was, oh my goodness, we had such a good group of girls, man. Then they all left and went to Central.
Oh, that was you had that
Man,
team.
we had a
Okay.
we had a
I know
squad.
you had a squad.
I mean, it was a good group of girls. All they had to do was be patient.
Right, but and
You know,
yep, they transferred to
they
Central.
transferred to Central.
They had that record-setting
hmm
team. Yep.
And then I didn't coach anymore for high school ball because Cameron was in high school, and I felt like, I'm going to work and then I want to make it to his games.
Mm-hmm.
So I made sure I supported Cameron through high school, and then he got to play 4 years of college basketball, so I supported him there, and didn't coach high school ball until 6 years ago. Coach Lex, I was doing a camp at Washington with uh, with Chris Pierce.
Okay.
No, not with Miss Pierce.
Yeah, Christy.
Christy Pierce,
Mm-hmm.
and it was a camp she asked me and Sean Phillips to run for her, and Coach D that coaches the boys at Como now,
Oh, Donnell
Donnell.
Gibson.
It
Yeah.
it was it was his the Gibson
Yep.
Foundation,
The Gibson. Yep.
and Como girls came there, and that's when Alexis was coaching them.
Mm.
Uh, and she asked me what I consider coaching at Como, and I'm like, man, I don't know. I ended up coaching with her 1 year,
Mm-hmm.
and then she left,
Okay.
and Coach Londa got the job, and I was okay with that because, like you was talking about, head coach, I didn't want all that. At my age, I didn't want the head coach job at all.
Mm-hmm.
But I said I'll be your assistant, and I'm good. And it turned out to be our first year there was the COVID year,
Okay.
and and it was Coach Londa's first head coaching job. So it was you know it was a lot. We had to wear masks the whole time,
Mm-hmm.
and Coach Londa and she wasn't ashamed, and she knew. She says, "I'm learning," and I told her I'm here, and we're a team. That's what we do,
Mm-hmm.
and so it worked out pretty good for us. And I ended up staying there a few more years. Excuse me, with Ronnie Porter
Mm-hmm.
and KK Asbury, Shania Nichols Vanette,
Mm-hmm.
and those girls. Man, it was a really good group of girls. Uh, their senior year, we ended up going to state
Mm-hmm.
with the group. Excuse me,
Mm-hmm.
and got third in state. It was a man. It was a great feeling. It was really a great feeling uh, to go to the state tournament and to win third. Because I always say, even if we made it to the championship game and lost that game, you lose to get second place,
Mm-hmm.
but you always win the third place game. If you win that game, you win a game. And at Concordia that day, we put on a show. It was so much fun as a coach, and no one had given me the opportunity, but Coach Lexus Gray, she gave me the opportunity to coach the girls, and I stayed there. So I really appreciate her for that. And the girls that are in college right now,
Mm-hmm.
Chloe Dimitri that played with us,
Yeah.
Ronnie Porter, and
Yep.
KK Asbury, she's still playing.
Okay.
And let's see who else is playing. Uh, oh, Janae Singer, she's still playing too. She came her junior year, and I got to coach her. She was on the third place team too.
Mm-hmm.
But the girls that were together, that were the core group when I got there, was Ronnie, KK, uh, Jada, Shakila,
Mm-hmm.
and there's one more. I'm old. I'm losing things, but that core group of girls were really good, and they loved basketball. You know, they were in the gym, and they were there. They were the ones who barely missed practices or missed anything, and they loved to learn, which was fun with me. A good group of girls. You know, even Shakila went to college and played a year
Mm-hmm.
at NIAC, but when her father passed away, it just changed
Oh
things for her.
yes, Damon.
Yeah,
Yes.
but she's doing good right now though, so I stay in touch with her.
Okay.
And actually, Ronnie Porter, you know, playing at Wisconsin right now
Yes.
is really huge. I knew the first day I coached her in the gym that she was special. And if you be around basketball a lot, you just know. And her size didn't mean anything. She just knows the game, and she understands it. And but she'd be even if she was taller, I don't think it would change much,
Mm-hmm.
because she's that player. Um, but the one girl that really stands out in my mind is Shania Nichols Vanette.
Mm-hmm.
She tore her ACL twice in
Mm-hmm.
high school. She sit on the bench with me for 2 seasons.
Mm-hmm.
She ended up going to North Dakota School of Science
Yep. I remember
last
that.
year,
Yep.
and she played, and if I'm not mistaken, she was an All American and made All Conference first team, and then she now she's playing D1 ball at Indiana U Purdue right
Oh
now.
wow.
So now just think, two ACL tears. Now she's playing D1 basketball, and the one ACL tear is enough to make you want to.
Mm,
But she's a special person, man.
man.
And as far as me continuing, I've let everybody know I'm going to be done after this season.
Okay.
I'm 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 hanging them up. I've done a lot, for basketball,
Mm-hmm.
and I've coached a lot of kids, and nothing that I want to brag about. It's just stuff that I love, and the kids would tell you as grown men, one day I'm gonna pay you back, Coach Ronnie. And I'm like, pay me back for what? Look at
Mm-hmm.
you. You got a master's degree.
Mm-hmm.
Dante Cager was working in Dubai.
Mm-hmm.
He has a master's. Noah Gagner, he has a doctorate. It's like all these kids. Jordair Jett, he has a 4-year degree too. It's like my son Cameron, 4-year degree. Marcus Benz, 4-year degree. DeAndre Johnson, 4-year degree. All these kids that came out of MLK that look like me, that people say, that things ain't supposed to be a certain way. The same thing they said to me.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna be just like your daddy, boy. And I used to say, as a kid, you don't quite understand what people are saying.
You
So
really don't know.
I'm like, I hope so. I want to be like my
Mm-hmm.
dad.
You really,
Until
yeah.
you get older and realize they're
Mm-hmm.
talking negative, and then you're like, and then as I grew up, I realized my dad wasn't that bad of a person. He was a community leader. He had a youth center in Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
You know, my dad was an addict too, but he had his demons, but he was a good person. But so yeah, I wanted to be just like my dad. And in some aspects I did.
Mm-hmm. Now, when you when you think back to coaching, you think back to all the things that you've done. Are there any? You said I know you said early in your career or early in life, you didn't have anybody, that you were looking up to or anything. You were doing your thing. As time went on, and as you started changing your life, were there certain people that you remember that were there to maybe not even encourage you, but just people you looked up to, and people say, maybe I can do that. I can do that.
Yeah, one person that comes to mind is is Jim Robinson.
Mm-hmm.
When I met him at the loft, I didn't realize, how big of a man he was, not in stature, but
Mm-hmm.
how big of a man he was in the community.
Mm-hmm.
And and I let him know one day that how I felt about that, and that I watched him a little bit and realized the things he had done in the community, and that I wouldn't mind, being next to him at some point in my life,
Mm-hmm.
to help kids and families and whatnot in the community. And the strangest things is that the people, the one person that changed my life the most, and don't get me wrong when I say this, and people when you see this, don't get me wrong, was a woman I worked for at as a TA at the Rondo Center, the Rondo School Eisenmenger program. She hired me as a TA to work in her classroom, while I was working at Jimmy Lee part time there, and then I worked in the classroom. One day she told me, now, she said, Ronnie, she said, man, she said, you have so much to offer. And it was like, I didn't understand what she was talking about.
Mm-hmm.
She let me run chemical awareness groups with the kids. She she told me to help her with a project where we could take the kids in special ed to a camp up north.
Mm-hmm.
And I did that for like 4 summers with her. And then she said, you know that job you got at the rec center? She said, that job is for somebody. She said, but that job might not be for you. She said, there's a job coming open at the Wilder Foundation. I want you to apply for it. Get your resume together. Now think about it, Mitch. I'm sober probably a year and a half, 2 years, and a resume. What's a resume? And now
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I ain't got no resume, and I said it just like that. I'm used to filling out applications, but I got my resume together. And the funniest thing about getting that job, it was called a family outreach worker,
Mm-hmm.
working with the collaboration with the Wilder Foundation and St. Paul schools. I got the job, and now I'm like, what am I supposed to do? But I figured it out. I got the job as the family outreach worker. The weekend, the Monday I was supposed to interview, I was playing in the Gus Macker that weekend. I get elbowed in the face. I got a black eye. I'm going in the interview with my sunglasses on, and I'm walking in here, and I know they looking at me like, what the heck is this dude? What he? So I said, I'm gonna explain the sunglasses. I said, and after I explain it, we can either take them off or leave them on. And I explained that I got elbowed in the eye. I had stitches under my eye, and my eye was black and closed. And they said, well, we can take them. You can take them off. I took them off, and they was like, whoa, you can leave them off, but I got the job.
Mm-hmm.
I got the job with the eye like that and my sunglasses on when I walked in there like the cool dude. But
Mm-hmm.
I was really, trying not to cover my eye, but it was it was my first professional job. It. That was my track to helping people. And one day my boss Marianne came in my office and said, Ronnie, we need a bus to take the kids to the camp. Here, write this grant. I said, what? I said, I don't know how to write a grant. She said, sure you do.
Mm-hmm.
I got the grant.
Man.
I got the grant. And it was like things that, I never thought that I would do, that I was able to do. And I went so many years, with the camp with the kids, and until she moved to a different position, and the summer I moved into a different position at Wilder, she passed away. But it was she was the one who was so important to me, and the one instrumental in putting me on the right track, and helping me find out who I really was, not only as sober Ronnie, but you know as a kind person, and and that I was able to use my mind and wisdom to help kids. My chemical awareness groups with the kids, and a lot of those kids' fathers were in prison.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't get to see their father. So what I did was I got permission from the moms, and we wrote letters to their dads. Little things like that that just made it so much. And those were just ideas that I came up with from me being in the streets, and doing things that weren't so great. But yeah, Marianne brings back memories. She put me on. I had my own office. I'm like, look at me. I got an office. I'm like, things were just different then. And I'm trying to think of another person who helped me out and showed me the way was you. Come on, Mitch, man, you know. And I believe I've said to you before that you being young has nothing to do with it, with being, man, I watched you grow. I watched you when you were sick. I watched you treat people with respect. You never looked at me like nothing other than, Ronnie Smith. When I told you, my story back then, you could have been, get away, but man, it's been over 30 years and we still
True,
friends,
true,
you know.
true. I
And
just didn't know you felt like that.
no, man, it's there's certain people you look at when you're going through things,
Mm.
and you say, if I can mimic a little bit of what he does, I'm gonna be all right. And you're that person. So just keep doing what you're doing, and all the kids that you help. The craziest thing is when I was in college, I know I'm going off, but when I was in college, my first time, one of your students was there, and she went crazy. You know, Miss McDonald. You know, Mr. McDonald. She went to Johnson. I'm like, yeah, he's a good friend of mine.
That's
And
interesting.
it's man, it's an honor to tell people that you're my friend, man. It ain't nothing to shy away from. You're a good person, man.
I really appreciate that. Um, One of the last things I want you to talk about is that the last few years you've been coaching with your son,
Yeah,
Cameron. What now? What has that been like? What has
man.
that been like?
Cameron put it like he said, man. I looked down the side of the bench. He said, and that's the best coworker I ever had sitting next to me. He said, my dad.
Man, how does that make you feel?
Man, I'm getting it choked up right now, man. It's like how did I ever dream of something like that I'd be able to coach high school basketball with my son,
Mm-hmm.
and be okay with it, and enjoy it. And and now, my son is he's doing things that I did. He's working at Washington County. He's an employment counselor. He's doing the stuff I did, man. It's a blessing. He's a really good coach. He's young still, so he can run up and down the floor. I can't. So it's been a man. It's a joy, man. It, words can't explain it how it feels.
Mm-hmm.
Like when we lost to Roosevelt last year in the sections championship game, and we're hugging each other, crying, and it felt like you know that we could do it again. So that's why I came back, because he asked me to.
Yeah, because you were gonna quit last year.
Yeah, I was going
Remember?
to be done last year, and he said, "Dad, give me one more year. Look what we got. Look what we got." So yeah, it's a man. It's a wonderful feeling, man. It's a wonderful, wonderful feeling.
Never thought that it would happen like that, huh?
No, I never did. he would coach at MLK. If I had two teams, he would coach one of the younger teams, and then I would coach a team. And he coached at Washington for a few years with
Yes.
Coach Mark,
Yep.
and so he's a good coach. And I'm not. I know I'm biased a little bit, but he's a good coach. He knows the game. He's been around it, you
Mm.
know, since he was little.
Oh yeah.
Cam used to. I could tell him stop bouncing that basketball, stop dribbling the basketball, and he stopped dribbling, but then I hear still dribbling, and I'll go, Cameron, didn't I tell you to stop dribbling the basketball? He said, I did, Dad. This is a tennis ball.
No.
So he has some good handles too, though. But
Okay.
the last thing I want to say
Mm.
is I said I wouldn't brag about myself, but this is something that I never thought would ever happen. I never even thought about this happening to me. But in 2007, I was given an award as one of the top volunteers in the nation,
Mm.
and I received an award from the NBA, WNBA,
Mm-hmm.
and also Mayor Kelly, that was the mayor of St. Paul back then, wrote a proclamation and made it Ronnie Smith Day in St. Paul. So June 27th is Ronnie Smith Day in St. Paul. When they gave it to him, I said, "Y'all know who Ronnie Smith is?"
Oh, boy.
So it's been,
That's
man,
pretty. So it's been a pretty good ride for you.
it's been a good ride, man. It's been fun to be Ronnie Smith. I'm blessed, man. My life is good. I've worked hard. I retired from work 4 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, I can't complain, about anything. Maybe my health a little bit, but it just getting old.
Yeah, that
Getting older does it, man.
yeah kind of comes with the territory.
They lied to him about the golden years being golden.
That's for real. Now, usually as we close, Ronnie, we usually give our guests a chance to say something, um, maybe a parting message or something that maybe I didn't get a chance to, or you didn't get a chance to talk about. Um, just kind of any advice to anyone that is looking at this that might want to travel or end up where you are right now or have some of these same experiences that you had. Um, you can. This is the time that we usually give our guests to talk about something like that, or you don't have to have anything. But is there anything closing you'd like to say?
Well, I'd like to say thank you, first of all, Mitch, for having me. I'll call you Doctor now, but Mitch, you've been my friend for a lot of years. But as far as basketball goes and coaching,
Mm-hmm.
it takes a lot of time. If you're going to get into it, don't get into it for to count how many wins you have,
Mm-hmm.
because as a coach, I have a lot of wins. I don't know how many, and I really don't care. But I care about the young people that I coach.
Mm-hmm.
Don't get into it and try to pick the strongest kids, because some of the kids that aren't the strongest are going to grow to be the better humans.
Mm-hmm.
And be real about it. If you're going to coach, just be real about it, and respect the game, because I love the game of basketball. If you're going to coach that game, you know respect it. And the last thing I like to say is this is about my wife, Kathy Smith,
Mm-hmm.
who man, she's had my back since I met her. And if you're gonna coach and do what I did, and have her go, what was this $500 on the credit card for? And you go, and that you bought shoes and other things for the kids. Have someone that supports you and is okay with being with you, and you also support them. And she's been my rock, man. And without her, I wouldn't have been able to do any of this.
Okay.
And with that,
Well, I want to want to thank you, Ronnie, for stopping through, sharing your story with us. It's really appreciative. We do go back a long way, and we've come a long way together. But I'm very glad and very honored to have you on this podcast.
Thank you, Doctor.
All right. That will conclude our episode of Blacklight on Sports. Please, you listen to all the other different podcasts that we have had in the past, and also read us in the Minnesota Spokesman-Recorder. Thank you, and good evening.